Hello, this is Darlene LaFont from C2online. I just feel it very necessary to talk about this deduction. I'd like to blog it on a daily basis. This is the most audited business expense by GST as well as tax auditors, any sales tax. The relationship to meals and travel, because it can be a lifestyle related expense, the government has always explored the justification of trips. Now, the relationship to travel and meals specifically, I'm finding they're getting ruthless. If there's no journal or log or notations on the receipts, the auditor is flatly refusing the receipts, even to the extent where it's travel. So, connect where it's not even in your work location. So even when it's in Westlock and your Morinville, Alberta business, it's being denied unless you can prove that the trip was business related. I believe it's essential that we start writing on the back of the receipt as soon as we're at that till, or as soon as that receipt comes to the table. If if you're sitting at a table and the receipt is being brought to you, take a moment and flip that receipt over. Creating new habits on the way we do our lifestyle, making sure you pay by a credit card whenever you buy a meal so that you've got that processing time. Flip that receipt over, not the charge card portion of the receipt, the actual restaurant receipt, and write who you were with or if it was because of these basic reasons. Now, on the screen right now, you'll see that I've put in Word some descriptions. Now, most people don't realize that in our province anyway, in Alberta, and I mean, by all means, any of you from another province, well, in Canada, I think we can venture to say that it's all applicable across the board. The U.S. may be a little different. I'm going to ask you to talk to your own tax practitioner if you're an American. But the shifts that you work, like landscaping businesses, are the most audited meal receipts. And they're the ones that work 12-hour shifts because they do it when the sun's shining. So any meals, one meal a day, if there's a 12-hour shift, can be easily justified as a meal expense, because in Alberta, if you have an employee working for you for a 12-hour shift, you have to provide them a meal. So I suggest you write that on the back of the receipt, and then what the employees' names were. If it's because you've had a client visit or a client consultation, you're going to write that client name and maybe just a little point of what you talked about. Time is not a bad idea either, but that client name is the most important. Now, living out allowance. This is where you've actually traveled away. You may be having an overnight stay. You're not expected to be home, put it that way, in time to have a meal at home. Again, a 12-hour shift or overnight stay. You should be writing the purpose again on the receipt, but this is also an allowable meal expense. Claiming a flat amount per day for the company to pay for their employees for out-of-town meals is sometimes more advantageous than actually providing receipts. Now, a transport company, this is again another deduction. A meal may be claimed for that transport employee every 4 hours for up to 3 meals per day. Now, logically, if you're traveling, you leave your home at 8 in the morning and you're getting home, they expect you'd had your breakfast at home. Or you're arriving at home at 6, they expect that you'd had your supper at home. So that, that normal work day of 8 to 6, you probably could really only justify 1 meal. In logic, you probably did 2 meals. So, I mean, if you had 2, it's again representation. Why did you not eat at home when you got home from work? Any other company that's not a transport company has to be away from their work location 12 hours in order to claim the meal. Again, going back to that shift work. So that's just to provide you the different reasonings for meals. Obviously, a flight or a travel venture can be looked at differently, in the sense that you're just documenting that airline cost or that bus trip or that train trip was for the purpose of a business meeting. Now, the CRA website, I've gone onto the CRA website. You'll see the link here, www.cra.gc, or well, that's a French, cra-arc.gc.ca. And again, you can just do the search once you get to that website and ask for TD4. But this is the document that you want to have signed by your employees when you're doing that overnight stay living out allowance to them, whether it's flat rate or you're reimbursing them their receipts. And you can just see that it's, the employee has to make a declaration regarding things about their residence. But this is an important form. I'm currently in an audit. I'm going into appeal. They were not my client. They approached me now to represent them on an audit where their meals, I can see the meals were Westlock, Fort McMurray. This was a company that's not even from those areas. And because they didn't provide any declaration. And again, it is not Canada Revenue Agency's job to tell you what you're supposed to have to provide proof. So again, with no representation from a tax accountant when they went into audit, they had no idea what they were supposed to have. So we're now going to be going to appeal. But anyway, this is the document that I'm OCD today about showing you. Get on the website. If you are doing any kind of meals for employees because they're away, you need to have this document signed. So again, that's the TD4. So going back to another relationship I'm connected to, a co-founder of Convention Business Travel. Every year, I mean, how many companies do we do? 200 companies, whether it's training you how to do your books, or we're doing your books for you, or we're just doing your taxes. Everyone has travel expense claims, and they're a general ledger that we say, was all these travel expenses business related? Yes. Okay. Well, right now, I'm probably looking at the books 6 months after your year end sometimes. Sometimes I'm fortunate, I'm looking at it in the middle of the year and we're talking about certain expenses, but 75% of the time it's after your year end. You have to really start looking at those dates. The dates the expense hits the general ledger is the date the expense was paid or the expense was set up as an accounts payable. When did that travel actually happen is really important, because if you have prepaid for a flight to a convention and that trip is not going to be happening until your next fiscal period, that expense is applicable to that fiscal period. Now this website, I mean, I'm zeroing in on the date significance of travel expense, but this website has launched a application that will help you justify your travel, and it's an inexpensive way to record some documentation or some notes as to what that trip was about. When I get a general ledger with 15 expenses, different dates in the travel expense claim, I mean, I'm not at a place where I want to sit down and justify all the receipts with you. That's not cost effective for you. But as a business owner, if you don't have basically a file for every one of those trips, if you get audited, the receipt may not be sufficient to support your claim. So I encourage you to take a look at your travel ledger a little more aggressively. Like I said, I'm looking at a audit right now on a client that, based on the majority of the expenses, it appears to me that they could be sitting at $140,000 tax hit because they've got over 2 years being audited as a result specifically of meals and travel expenses. And we're talking about 2009 and 2010. We're now in 2013. How much memory do you have? How much paperwork? I mean, you're going to have to look at every one of those receipts. So better to do it now. It can start right at the first time you touch that invoice or that receipt. Make sure there's enough information on it indicating the date of the travel, who's going, what is the purpose. And this website can easily expanding on even creating your own convention. And they have a booking engine now that you can even book your own travel, which probably have reduced rates. So I encourage you to explore convention business travel as well. I believe I've covered everything today. Again, I'm from C2online. I run a storefront business, Morinville Business Center in Morinville, Alberta, Canada. Been doing it for over 25 years. Can see, hopefully, doing it for another 25. I hope to share some further blogs with you. Thank you for listening to me today. Have a great weekend, as today is Saturday for me. Bye.